is going to be talking to us about the courage to be humble. Thank you so much, Ted.
Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Mila, Joseph, our amazingly generous sponsors, everyone else that came together to make this incredible event happen in such a beautiful city. It's always a great opportunity to connect with old friends and meet a lot of new friends as well. So welcome, bienvenue to everyone here and to everyone that's following online today. This is my first time actually speaking at a 140 event. I've attended online, I've participated in person, even survived an earthquake at one. Thank you, Rick. And if you know me, and if you've heard me speak before, you know my affinity for all things digital, mobile, and marketing. So these events are great. It's a nice chance to change it up a bit. And for me, I'm pleased to be on this side of the mic to change it up and talk to you a little bit more about the root meaning of conversations. Today I'm speaking with you about the courage to be humble. Let's face it, bold is easy, right? It's loud, it's proud, it's big, and it's badass. If you're a big company, it's easy to project bold. And even if you're not, the web and the disruptive forces of new media channels and mobile access that's given us reach like we've never imagined before has made it easy for regional companies and even local businesses to project a big, bold image. It's loud. BlackBerry tried bold. They named their last product bold, and without much regard for consumer feedback or customer insight, and we see how well that's worked for them. You see, with this kind of bold, we sacrifice the most valuable mode of communication, listening. When we amplify volume and we increase frequency, meaning and depth fade. I've always heard the easiest way to see who's losing an argument is just to listen to see who's yelling the loudest. This kind of bold is a common mistake. We see it all the time with personal brands and companies using self-promoting strategies to connect in social media. They use very carefully crafted messages, keyword-rich, optimally scheduled, monologue-type posts. But social media isn't broadcast TV or radio. So often we see this relatively new media treated as just another media outlet. But outlets are one way. And despite what many traditional agencies advise their clients, these are not media buying opportunities. Potential audience reach may be huge, but it's meaningless if no one's paying attention. So to borrow a theme from my friend Ted Rubin, who many of you are also connected with, social media is about relationships. And relationships are about dialogue. And dialogue involves listening. And this goes beyond simple thank yous. Dialogue is built on an exchange of meaningful information. Conversations build deep, lasting relationships. I'm a great example. I sucked at this when I first started. I didn't get it. I knew I should be on social media. I made sure I had a presence so I could tweet, post, update. Who cares? Probably about a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2 years ago, I came across this Us Guys hashtag, and it piqued my curiosity. It wasn't a keyword. It wasn't a conference tag. And the strikingly common theme about the Us Guys posts and the people talking in Us Guys was that there was no common theme or topic. At least that's what it seemed like to the casual observer. But it soon became clear that the commonality of openness, intellect, authenticity, and genuine community was the Us Guys theme. And for me, that's all it took to realize what I was missing in my prior personal and professional social media engagement. Was I taking a risk? Did I feel vulnerable at first? That loss of direct control exposes a level of vulnerability that companies and many people are just not ready to accept. Jeff Pulver, who many of you know started the 140 Comp Series, he spoke at the 140 Syracuse event, and he spoke about vulnerability. And the key takeaway from his message was that vulnerability leads to connections. Listen, connect, share, engage. And don't worry, Jeff's big thing at this point is to say, okay, everyone, get up and hug each other. We'll save that for Jeff, because I know he likes to do that. But vulnerability leads to authenticity, and authenticity drives meaningful engagement. So what is bold? The dictionary says bold is showing an ability to take risks, confidence, courageousness, daring, audacious, brave. But I'd like to look at this from a different perspective. I hope this graphic is okay. I actually pulled this from a previous presentation I did because I wanted to make this point and talk about the process of paradigm shift. It starts with a status quo, a period of comfort and high confidence, but status quo is a death sentence for businesses in changing and dynamic markets. And I challenge anybody to name a business or a market that isn't dynamic and changing at this time. If you're lucky, you're hit with a point of destabilization. This leads to a scary period of disorientation. But this period of disorientation always results in this transformative learning experience. And the result of this transformative learning experience is a reorientation which is always higher than where you started. Some of the companies that I've worked with spend enormous resources trying to humanize brands. That requires humility, and that scares people who are used to controlling every aspect of the message. It also requires authenticity. And part of creating an authentic voice is listening for input from your audience. If you think about it, if you couldn't hear, you'd have difficulty speaking. That's because listening is essential to voice. And humble's not always perfect, but authenticity can be a very powerful ally. Don't think of social media as a soapbox. Think of social media as a friendly gathering. Online communities are like virtual neighborhoods. University quads, office water coolers, cocktail parties, conference events like this. Okay, we need some interaction here. Speaking of neighborhoods, if I was to say it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, won't you be my neighbor? Who comes to mind? You bet. The late Fred Rogers. Now, the funny thing about Fred Rogers is that a friend of mine actually happened to be, at least for a period of time, Mr. Rogers' neighbor. He created a documentary, Mr. Rogers and Me. It was released earlier this year. It was shown at film festivals, independent movie houses, and they actually aired it in PBS stations across the US as a tribute to Fred Rogers after his passing. The funny thing about this, the friend of mine who created this really was focusing on how Fred Rogers touched so many lives and the meaning he brought to children and adults. The movie talks about this, but the real focus of the film is Mr. Rogers' passion for deep and simple. Deep and simple, according to Mr. Rogers, is far more essential than shallow and complex. Now, the irony here is that my friend Ben, who created and produced this movie, happens to be an executive with MTV, probably the epitome of shallow and complex. But that irony isn't lost. It's probably what made the message of deep and simple resonate so strongly for him. It should reinforce our notion of bold. Bold isn't simply to stand apart. Bold is to be noticeably different, maybe even daringly authentic. I suggest that humble is the new bold. And instead of thinking of bold as simply loud, because anybody can be loud, add to the quality of conversations by emphasizing the dialogue. Start by listening. That's where you'll begin to see the beauty and the power of social media. Conversations, relationships, online and in real life. Hopefully some enlightenment as well. It's the courage to listen. That's how you learn. That's how you'll interact. That's how you'll know what to share. It's the courage to engage. Because at the core of Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Diaspora, Pinterest, whatever social media platform comes next, and there will be a next social media platform, we can't forget that these spaces are built around interactive and interconnected communities. And finally, it's the courage to be humble, because a vibrant and interactive community can carry your message further and deeper than you could have ever imagined. I'm humbled to have been able to share this time with you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentations. I look forward to connecting with you online and throughout the day. I'll leave you this question to consider. What can you do to stand apart, to be more humble, to be a better listener, and a more generous sharer in your communities? Thank you.